Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today's reading is inspired by my getting of a new oracle deck, the very beautiful rainbow oracle that you see some of the cards here, and I'm really delighted to be using it. Apart from the fact that it's possibly one of the most beautiful oracles I've ever seen, it's designed by an Australian, a wonderful Australian artist called Jasmine Safi. Just for anybody who's interested in getting the deck, which you can get on Etsy, and the details are in my description box below. That's the beautiful box that it comes in. So it's just lovely. And it's a sort of combination of channeled messages from what Jasmine calls the Rainbow Council, hence the incredible, glorious colour, and also sort of five-dimensional archetypes. So it seemed to me an absolutely ideal deck to use to explore what your 5D self is, to introduce yourself to your 5D self and what messages your 5D self might have for you. And so we're going to look at almost a picture of what your 5D self looks like, acts like, is in essence. And then we're going to use tarot to have a look at a bit more about that kind of energy, what your 5D self advises for you here in the 3D, and how this interacts with others. Because one of the things that I strongly feel about all things in terms of our spiritual development, our manifestation, all of those things, is we do not operate in isolation. We operate with other people. So our 5D self will have a vision for us, a mission potentially, things to develop and so forth. But so will all the other people that we know. They also have that, and we're all interacting in the kind of energetic matrix between us. So we're going to have a look also then at some key people your 5D self wants you to focus on, and what their 5D energy is, and also what their 3D manifestation might be, so that you might be able to recognize them. And depending upon what comes up, this may either be very positive connections, or they may be connections that your 5D self wants you to be aware of because they could be a challenge. We're then going to look at your key 3D and 5D strengths, and then from there bring it together with some astrology and chakra energy, just to close the loop on the colour, so to speak. So to help choose the reading, and of course you're more than welcome to go to more than one reading, that's perfectly fine if you feel drawn to more than one reading. Sorry, I just saw something that was on my table there. I'm using numbers as always for those who like to choose by numbers, but what I've also done is I picked 4 of the archetype cards from this deck. So there's going to be a couple of other cards from this deck in the first section of the reading that may either be other archetypes or may be energy and messages from the Rainbow Council. So we'll see what comes out with that. But I thought the imagery was so strong and beautiful, it might draw you to one or more readings. Also, the nature of the archetype might, because this will be part of the reading, but as I say, it will be balanced with some other cards from this deck and other oracles to get a more holistic picture of what your individual 5D energies look like. So the choices: pile 1 has the Rainbow Priestess, pile 2 has the Shaman, pile 3 has the Spiritual Warrior, and pile 4 has the Shapeshifter. So I thought they were 4 strong archetypes that you may resonate to, or more than one, as I say. If you feel drawn to more than one, by all means go to more than one. When you know what reading or readings you want to go to, as always, I have the timestamps in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So as I said, we've got 2 other cards from the Rainbow Oracle, and in your case it's 2 other archetypes along with your original archetype. We've got some astrology energy, some interdimensional energy that very much fits with one of these archetypes, Fae energy, and some Greek mythology and broader sort of spiritual connection, just to give a sense about who you are. Now the interesting thing is you chose the Rainbow Priestess, and in this deck it is like the self-actualized, if you would like, High Priestess. It is the owner of much occult and spiritual knowledge, who is no longer keeping it just as secrets, but is ready to share it with others. So kind of like the High Priestess plus a teacher sort of archetype in a way, or a messenger in some way. So there is a part of your 5D soul that is very, very skilled and very knowledgeable about all sort of things occult and hidden, but is ready now to share those. And part of this, I think, connects to a starseed type of connection, because we have the Lyrans here, which are a cat cat-like people, an interdimensional race that are very connected to the ecosystem, which fits some of this in terms of nature, which I'll get to. But they are definitely, say, an interdimensional or intergalactic race. And then we have the galactic soul here, where it's saying that your vibration and your energy extends beyond experiences on Earth and extends to other sort of dimensions, galaxies, and so forth. But you're also a very free spirit. And the interesting thing in this energy is that on one hand, we get the sort of, with the Lyrans, with the green man in the Fae, so the sort of fertilization things, action of things, getting back to nature, and the nature element here. Your 5D soul is very concerned with the impact on the ecosystem, I would say, of what humanity is doing. So there is something like a mission. And in fact, with the Hydra here, which is about challenges from the Greek mythology, there's definitely a sense that you have a mission. And it is a mission about protecting the earth, about the environment in one form or another. So you could work in sort of environmental sciences or something like that, or you may just have that as a cause. You may be manifesting at the moment as just being very, very reliable about sort of doing the right thing by the environment and so forth, though I think your passion for this runs deeper. But I also think that you have a spiritual approach or a spiritual knowledge that you want to share that connects to this. So if you do have an environmental science background, for instance, there's also a spiritual element of it for you. And it's about protecting everything for generations to come with Cancer here. Cancer is probably the most protective of the signs in the zodiac, really cares about the emotional connections, families, and so forth, generation by generation, and very much connected, I think, to your intergalactic sort of family and sort of background as well. And you bring knowledge to this. So it's knowledge of an occult basis, but I suspect also scientific or in some way business oriented, something like that, higher order knowledge. You're likely to be very well educated or to be a lifelong learner, to really want to know the sort of theory and the practice behind things, so that when you're bringing a message, it's an integrated message and one that is actually going to further the cause. But you're also a free spirit. So you do not want to be told what to do. So if you study, you will look at it for yourself and bring a high degree of critical thinking to it. If you're looking at an environmental, natural, or some other sort of very materially based systems and what you believe is necessary, you will have your own spin on it. You will not suffer fools, because the Lyrans don't suffer fools, and you will not suffer anybody who threatens those that you care about. So although this looks very sort of like high order, high dimensional sort of like perspective and huge occult knowledge, this free spirit, as I say, takes no prisoners and is more than capable of dealing with the challenges that the world might bring, and really understands the earth and understands the systems that you're dealing with things. And it's so at its core, your 5D self wants you to develop something that protects the earth, protects family, protects the generations to come, that brings true learning to it, both academic and also occult, but under your own terms. This is the sort of 5D self that is not going to just take propaganda, is not going to just take the received wisdom, really brings a lot to the table, and it really does not suffer fools, but equally is very open to different perspectives, because that's part of the symbol of the freedom. You know, it's being able to get to the truth and authenticity and see that in others. So if you saw someone, for instance, who was politically mouthing the right words about the environment but operating very differently, then you would have a problem with that. If you saw a particular political or academic approach to something that you were trying to protect was not actually going to work in a practical sense, you're not going to just follow it just to follow it. There's too high order a perspective of what you do, and you're far, far too independent for that. It's part of your nature, and that's what you want for nature. You want nature to be free to evolve and grow and be authentic and be themselves. So really sort of powerful sense of bringing knowledge and perspective to something, but in a very original way. That's your kind of 5D imprint. So your 5D self is a very individual entity, you know, very, very much, you know, would be the rebel in heaven almost if necessary, but only if necessary. So let's have a look. with tarot at a little bit more detail about what does this look like in terms of the personality in a way, and some of the energies and focus of your 5D self at the moment, pile 1. Okay. For a start, your 5D self is very focused on action and the outcome of action. This is the free spirit. This is the sort of high perspective. This is the taking on the challenges. It looks as though you've been through quite a bit. You've actually been building something. With the 10 of Wands, there's a sense of a little bit of exhaustion, and you haven't yet fully brought this out into the world or been recognized for what you can do, because we have the 6 of Wands reversed. Your higher self actually doesn't care about recognition overly. It's not, that's not the aim of it. The aim of it is to give a solid foundation to something with the 3 of Pentacles, and to be able to build from that, and to have a happy sort of generations, happy life, happy emotional connection. So if you did this behind the scenes, it wouldn't bother you. The only reason that you would want to be in the forefront would be if you thought that people were not walking the talk, and then, or were trying to constrain you in some way, or use their higher degree of visibility as a way to control what you were doing because of the free spirit. But you are happy to win the game from wisdom without being seen to win the game if necessary. You've got very long-term goals. They may very much connect to family, love, and all of those sort of things. They could very much connect to having a family of your own and what you pass on to your family. But at the very least, it's very, very materially, what can we create in this world focused, and having the stamina to see it through. So there's something, your 5D self is saying that there is something for you about managing your energy levels. So it is saying that this free spirit that wants to move forward very quickly and take on the challenges, and this great cause that you have, and this sort of vision you have of a happier community, family, whatever it might be, really wants to go forward fast. But there's a lot of work to be done, and you've already reached a particular level, and it's a bit tiring. You have managed to do it, but it's like, take a little bit of a rest, because this is the beginning, not the journey, and so forth. So on a personality level, your 5D self is very much committed to the beautiful outcome, but knows that it's only really just started, and this first wave of whatever this is, so whether this is in a career for you, whether it's around a relationship, whether it's in something that you're doing creatively, whatever it is, you've done the first step, but you need a little bit of time just to sort of step back and relax a bit before you take on the next challenge, so to speak. So let's see, what is the narrative of this life from your 5D self's perspective? What really is the story that your 5D self would like to see you live out in this life? Okay. The free spirits, in some sense, is the strongest part of your 5D sense, I've got to say. The freedom, the getting away from the anxiety that's associated with freedom, is very much something that your 5D self wants you to explore, and wants you to be your own boss, or create your own business, or create your own material outcomes, and also to some degree the happy family, all of those sort of things. But you need to do it your way. So this is the strongest of the archetypes in the sense of what your 5D self wants right now in the 3D world. There's the high level perspective, the knowledge, the lifelong learning, all of that sort of stuff. But this free spirit, and it is a little bit of a balance that you have to do, because there is definitely a pull towards family, connection, community, all of those sorts of things. And sometimes there may be a bit of a challenge between what you want to do and walking your own walk rather than somebody else's. That causes anxiety around family, people around you, friends, work colleagues, or whatever. This is why you're meant to establish something that is very you. It is not a joint project for you. You are here with a kind of singular mission. It connects to community, it connects to family, it connects to other things, and it's based on a lot of knowledge. But the real thing is to work through the anxiety that the wish for freedom has, while also being in the material world. So for you, it's a big thing about working out how you can be independent and authentic, but still reach the goals that you want to reach and still be connected to other people. So let's ask what your 5D self says this means in relation to other people, because for you, there's a real key thing here. So we're just looking for some early energy about what other people, how other people and their 5D self and 3D self is impacting on what your 5D self is wanting you to be able to do. Okay. Okay. So there is quite a bit impacting on you from other people by the looks of things. So, and the free spirit, again, this is why the free spirit's dominant at this point, I think, actually, because I think that there are people around you who don't recognize how powerful you are on a spiritual level or the perspective that you bring. There are people who are very much in the 3D matrix around you, very much in the beast system, literally, and they hold the purse strings to some degree at the moment. One at least, possibly female with Queen of Swords, but it doesn't have to be, is highly critical, highly judgmental, and they want to draw out your knowledge. Like there's someone here who sees the knowledge you have and ability that you have, but they want to control it in some way, and they want to control your access, whether it's to higher levels of education, whether it's to be able to do what you are trying to do in the world. There is somebody who's picked it up, who knows, who's like almost a negative version of the rainbow princess here, because this person is smart. This person really knows how to deal with the system, and they want to control you. They want to intellectually control you, and they've seen that you do care about higher learning, you do care about perspective, but they want to constrain what you do, and it's through a material thing. This is why your 5D self wants you to focus on how you can get freer in terms of money. So whether this is someone in your family who's controlling the purse strings on what you can study, whether it's a workplace and a boss, whether it's sort of a frenemy or a competitor or something like that, there's somebody, and they're very, very 3D beast system oriented. So we will see a little bit more about this person, because that's what we want to get into next. I wanted to sort of see if there was a dominant set of people or a person. I think for this, it's a particular person, though they may be representative of something that will always cause challenge for you, which is someone who sees how smart you are, but is much more prone to just follow the beast system, follow what is required, follow what is expected, as opposed to this freedom and this higher order perspective that you're bringing to things. This person is also potentially on an environmental and so forth level, if that does matter to you, doesn't care about that, wants the profits, isn't interested in sharing the profits. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get a little bit more information on them, because you're dealing with them in the 3D, but you were also dealing with them in the 5D. So we will have a bit of a look at what some of the energy is around their 5D self, and then also what you might see of them in the 3D, so it's easier to recognize them. But starting with the 5D, I'm going to get a couple of archetype cards from the Rainbow Oracle. So I'm just going to shuffle and then deal out till I get 2 archetype cards. And I'm also going to get a card from the Gospel of Aradia to sort of see how they connect into community, family, traditions, and that sort of thing. And then we're going to put out some cards around 3D sort of personality aspects. So firstly, a little bit about the imprint of their 5D self. Okay, so we've got 1, which is Apprentice. An Eternal Queen. Okay, all right. That's picking up the Queen of Swords energy. We'll get to the Apprentice. That's interesting. And let's get a card from the Gospel of Aradia. The Shadow. Yeah, okay. This is someone who is very, very ambitious, and their higher self is very, very ambitious. They want to rule. You know, this is the kind of better to rule in hell than serve in heaven type of energy, really, which I guess is the devil energy. But this is a person who, on a kind of high, 5D level, has a lot of power, has a lot of energy. As I say, they recognize a peer in you, I think. But for some reason, I think at the moment, compared to you in either what you're doing in the 3D world or compared to you on an occult level, they are still an apprentice. They're still learning. So it may be someone for a lot of you that you meet through learning something, because you seem to be a lifelong learner and so forth. It might be someone that comes into your life because they are also a student, but they're a competitor as well. And it's the two queens, the rainbow princess. Well, she's a queen and you're a princess, but she's only the apprentice. So on a 5D level, she sees herself as above you, but on a 3D level, I think she's not quite got there yet. And on a spiritual level, even at the 5D, she hasn't. She's very much in her mind, very much how to work the systems of the 3D. And as I say, it doesn't have to be a she. I'm just using that terminology at the moment because we're seeing queens here. But represents a shadow element. So is not dedicated to the same cause as you. And I feel, if this person had any intergalactic things, it feels more like draconian or something like that. It doesn't feel like, the Lyrans or whatever. So if you think of it a bit like a dragon sort of like facing off against a cat, and I wouldn't necessarily say the cat's going to lose, but it's just a different sort of energy in that kind of feeling around it. So this is someone who I think probably is a peer, or somebody who maybe even is a little bit beyond you because they hold the purse strings in some way, but they're not actually as developed as you are. They go to the shadow rather than to the level of light. Let's see what we get around personality aspects and the context in which you live on the 3D to see if this gives you a better idea who this person is. And it could be someone coming in. It may not be someone you know, but I think for most of you, you probably do know this person at the moment. Okay, got yellow, pink, Africa, Earth, Cancer. Okay, so Cancer is there. They may have similar sort of astrology to you or seem to be very connected to family. But again, it's like their connection to family is not the same sort of level as you. But they appear to be really lovely. Africa may just be sort of somewhere they've travelled, somewhere they come from, somewhere they're interested in, and it could be something like that. And it's probably fairly specific, so it'll only probably fit certain people who come to this reading. But what is the earth energy? You're both very interested in the earth, but I think for them it's around profit. For you, it's around ecology and the environment and the stewardship and so forth. But they talk a good game. They appear to have the same concerns as you. They appear very sweet. So they're coming across like the apprentice. Like it's almost like someone that is sort of, either, as I say, has been a fellow student. They've gone a little bit further than you, but they go, let me give you a job because, you're so good, you're so clever, and they kind of draw you in that way. I've got so much I could learn from you, etc. But they think they're a queen. So it's a little bit duplicitous, but they're very confident, but likely to be in the same sort of field in some way as you, or very good in sort of the material side of things. They may also have some of those physical qualities: hazel or brown eyes, brown or golden skin, thick hair, full lips. So these are all just qualities that might help you recognize who this person is. Let's get from another deck something else to see if there's any other qualities or the sort of world that you meet in, or anything else that Spirit wants to tell you about this person. Travel and adventure. Yeah, so they may well like to travel. That might be why Africa came up, if that doesn't instantly go. Sense of humour. So they're probably fun to be around. Performing arts. Yeah, they like to perform. They like to be seen. So you don't care about that. That's what I said at the beginning. You don't care whether you're sort of front and centre. They like to be centre stage, definitely. Adolescents. Yeah, they're not as mature as you spiritually, I think. And social butterfly. Yeah, they like to be seen. They like to be the person that everybody looks at when they walk in a room. And I think that they do have quite a compelling nature, but they're not as mature as you. This is the issue. Likely to use humour to draw people in, and also as a little bit of a weapon. Like the fun of life, like being around people, all of that kind of thing. Probably quite charismatic, I think, but underneath very, very critical. Very, very critical, and want to control things. So I think that your 5D self wants you to know there is a formidable competitor, I think. And if you haven't come across them, you are going to. But the thing that your 5D self wants you to know is that you are more genuine than this person. And they may think of themselves as a queen, but they're not as developed as you in terms of skill, understanding, knowledge, and all of that kind of thing. And that is going to matter. They may initially seem to get ahead because they seem to be able to get on very well with people and draw people in, but they're not as mature. They're not as well developed as your 5D self. And so I think your 5D self wants you to know that you can ultimately win here, but you just need to recognize it so they don't take advantage of you, I think. So let's have a look at some of your key strengths to balance in the 5D and in the 3D. So we might start first with the 3D and look at sort of relationship, energy, career and lifestyle, and then also look at a 3D type archetype for you. So this will be energies. If I see something that looks negative, it's actually a strength that you have. This is very intentional, the way I'm doing this. It'll be a strength that you have that you can deal with, so something that you can overcome in yourself or in others. And if it is a positive, then it is something that you are building in the 3D that will help you bring about what your 5D self wants, which is you to strike out and do something for your cause, but in a very individual, free way where you are your own boss. So around relationships, we have chance. So this is telling me that you will have a strength in knowing where there are chances and opportunities around relationships. And I think a very good instinct for this. So if you haven't met this person, you're going to work out who they are pretty quickly when you do. And if you have, you can understand what can be gained from the relationship without losing too much to their kind of critical control. Around lifestyle, habit. So you can break habits, I think. You can understand when you're falling into habits. You can understand when there are blocks and limitations. And this is partly the free spirit in you and the higher level perspective. And you know you have the innate knowledge to know how to break habits that aren't working for you, or to create habits where they would be helpful for you, particularly like health-wise and so forth. There's a very strong sort of, as I say, earthy element to you of understanding nature and your own nature. Then career, approval. You can get approval. If you feel this person has the reins on approval for you, you will be able to move past that. And in a weird way, this person wants your approval. Many people want your approval because they innately feel the high priestess in you. They feel that knowledge and so forth. And they know that they can't just kind of seduce you with the standard sort of things, that your freedom and your way of thinking is so unique. So you are more likely to be sought for your approval than the other way around. And let's see the archetype energy on a 3D level for you. The giver. So this is the Cancer energy. So basically, if in the way that you play out your strengths, you understand the value of relationships. You can build good and healthy habits in all areas of your life and also break ones that aren't working. You are more likely to be sought for approval than needing the approval of others. You are more focused on giving, what you can give, what you can provide, what you can protect. And that is a very powerful thing because people can't seduce the giver in that sense. You've almost stepped away from the capacity for this very material, power-oriented control person. You are giving, you are caring, and as such, you can make a lot more on a 3D level than somebody who is just after control for control's sake. Okay, so let's have a look at your 5D type of strengths as well. So here we're going to just look at some spiritual gifts that can help you. We already know you're the high priestess, so we know there's a lot of occult knowledge that you have, but let's see what else there is. Activation, knowledge, yeah, well we knew about knowledge already, and conjure. Okay, so this is to me saying activating your knowledge makes you be able to manifest what you want. So you are very much able to magically manifest what you want in the world, but it's because it serves the cause, I think, and because it's based on very, very strong ancient knowledge that you have. As I say, you're not really doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the future, for future generations, for other people. The only thing you require, your 5D self and you require, is freedom. Freedom to be able to think for yourself, speak for yourself, tell your truth. And that's very, very powerful. And because it comes from great knowledge, you can conjure in what you want. Let's see what else there is in terms of spiritual gifts for your 5D archetype and your 3D self. Tarot card reader. So some of you may do this sort of work. Very much fits with the High Priestess. I mean, she very much, you know, is a archetype for tarot card readers. So very, very psychic energy that you bring in, the higher level perspective and so forth. Ascension Path 7, the astral plane, pineal gland is fully open. Yeah, you're very psychic. Very psychic. And it's partly what's making you free. Like you've got to that level where you have to be, because it's kind of like you really understand that a lot of this matrix business is just a bit of a game. You know, you want to be at that higher level. And life path 7, so you've got a double 7, the dreamer, ruling planet Neptune, again psychic. So it's just basically saying very, very psychic, very Neptunian with the High Priestess connection. Very much able to bring and dream your world into being. A double 7 is a very strong sort of God type of number and so forth, so very much connected to the divine and so forth, but very much able to use divination and to access this knowledge, I think. And also, I think probably meditation. So, okay, given all of that, let's bring it together with your sort of astrological and sort of chakra blueprint, the sort of advice that Spirit would give you to create what your 5D self is trying to build in the 3D world, and to use both your 3D and sort of more 5D type of skills to do that. So firstly, we'll start with some astrology energy, then we're going to close out with the Astro Chakra cards. Full moon, Gemini, Pisces, and waning crescent moon. So there's a couple of sort of moon cycles here. Again, that sort of fits with all the kind of High Priestess sort of knowledge. The full moon suggests that you are able to now bring in a harvest for work that you've done. So I think that many of you have, as we saw with the tarot cards at the beginning, done quite a lot of work on something, and it was tiring, but you got to the end. So you may have finished some study, you might have got to a new level in your career, whatever it might be, you are at a point where you're meant to reap some of that. And in doing it with the waning crescent moon, release control for anything that you aren't able to sort of impact at the moment. You've got to a particular level, you just need a bit of a rest, just release control over things. Things will start to move in the right direction. Gemini and Pisces are interesting. You may have these strong in your chart. Pisces certainly fits in with the kind of High Priestess energy, or the psychic Neptunian energy and so forth. There's very much the sort of psychic energy there, and the caring, you know, it sort of partners a bit with Cancer on that level in terms of caring for others. But Gemini is very clever, and where necessary can wear the mask that they need to wear. And I do think there'll be a bit of that you need to do. This Queen of Swords is a Gemini card, but this is a reverse Queen of Swords. So I think you can be the more light version of that, the more light energy version of that, using a clever mind and a capacity to communicate, to bring about what you're trying to do, and to bring in other people to see what you're doing. But it means that you meet this person level for level. There is a similarity between you by the looks of things. It's just that you are more developed spiritually, and as such, you are more likely to head towards the good outcome, because you can see the bigger picture, whereas they want the very material outcome at the moment. They're a little bit young spiritually. Okay, so to finish off, we'll just bring out some Astro Chakra cards for you. Spirituality, that doesn't surprise me. The crown chakra. Oh, the crown chakra again. Yes, very, very spiritual. Was there right from the beginning. And spirituality again. Okay. So I do think that most of the people who've come to this reading, you're likely on a business level to do something spiritual. It's likely to have some sort of environmental or real world impact in some way, but there's a highly spiritual way of doing things. And this is effectively like having Pluto, Neptune and Uranus conjunct. So wow, that is a powerhouse spiritually. That is the transformative energy, the inspirational energy, and the individuality. You always have to be an individual, but it's your individuality and your inspiration, your psychic ability that brings the transformation. So you're here to make a difference. You're here to shift things. You're here to create a happier outcome and a better environmental outcome for people in some form, in whatever that resonates for you. And as I say, spiritually a powerhouse. So don't be too concerned about this, Queen. I think that you are going to be more than a match for that situation, but it may be that it's coming into your life at the moment so that you can start to balance out what are the costs of the freedom in a system, in a matrix system, in a beast system. How do you still get the outcomes that you need while retaining your authenticity and your freedom? And this is about using your perspective and your occult ability and knowledge to really shift the dial on that, to not get caught in the shadow aspects that are in the beast system itself. So I hope that that resonates for you, Pile 1. I hope it was helpful and you enjoyed it. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share about it in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So we have 2 other cards from the Rainbow Oracle here. One is an archetype, one is an energy around your 5D self at the moment. Then we have the Fae energy, we have some astrology, we have some sort of broader spiritual energy, and also Greek mythology, just to give a bit of a blueprint of your 5D self. And it's interesting, the 2 archetypes for you, the one that brought you here, shaman, you're probably drawn to shamanism or interested in it, and you have a shamanic soul. So a soul that can go into the depths, can be infinitely healing. So very much here with that Virgo energy, a great healing energy in general, and in fact a capacity to have the environment and people around you flourish and so forth. So part of your 5D soul is about healing and about getting to the depths with people to be really able to do that and so forth, and get their energy moving again, I think, and their knowledge and their health moving again with the serpent sort of energy here, because serpents are often associated with healing. So there's definitely a healer. You are a healer. No two ways about it. Some of you may be literally sort of working with people around sort of reproductive health, or around sort of midwifery, or something to do with sort of looking after children and so forth. There's something about birth and that kind of energy around some of you as well. It doesn't have to be that, but there's certainly something around that. Or potentially for some of you, this is going to start to manifest around a divine union or some sort of creation that comes from love and sensuality and all the things on the 3D level around those sorts of essences. So that's definitely there. But you're also the alchemist. So you bring all of this together. It's not just the kind of shamanic practices. It's actually the understanding almost of the chemistry or the fundamentals of the world, and the connection of that to spirit, which I feel is very strategic for you. And I feel as though with the Virgo energy, you've been a little bit behind the scenes, you've been a little bit understated. The alchemist has been waiting her time. The shaman, I think, has been more obvious, and the way that you've helped others, many of you, through your 5D self, might coach and mentor others and help them grow. But there's a strategic, I understand the nature of the universe type energy for you as well too. And it will be profoundly creative in some way with the Vesica Pisces, which is the divine feminine, birthing, fertility and so forth. And then with the Mars energy, which is physical, divine masculine, all of that kind of thing, and a flourish thing. You want to help people, the next generations. You want to help people grow, flourish, create, and you do it very much from a kind of healthy basis. But you are moving to some form of position of power, some sort of position where you actually have some control in a way over other people. So if you were a doctor, you're moving to a very senior sort of level where what you do might be medical policy, for instance. If you're a spiritual teacher, you're moving to somewhere where you might even start a movement, something like that. If you are in more conventional sort of work, then your capacity to understand and heal organizations and strategically bring them forward will move you to a natural position of leadership. You are meant to have a leadership role. You are meant to use a very clever mind that then marries the kind of material, earthy side of healing with the kind of more spiritual alchemy. And you're meant to take action. You want to help everybody flourish, and you want to flourish, but you can't flourish unless you combine your divine feminine and masculine, and you actually take on probably a little bit more of the Mars energy and come out from behind the scenes and move into some sort of position of power. So I definitely think in some way you're meant to lead in your environment, in your career, in your creativity. So let's see with the tarot what the sort of personality approach sort of and desires in a sense of your 5D self we can see from tarot information. So it's interesting with the Emperor and Zeus. There is, your 5D self definitely knows, and I think you probably know as well too, that you're meant to be a leader in some way, that is your ultimate goal, to be that. And it's not because you just want to rule for ruling's sake. You really want to bring this sort of healing and balance into things. And you're very dedicated to those. You'd be a servant leader rather than a despot, let's put it that way. So your higher self knows that you want to get there, but also knows that you're not quite there yet. There's a sense of what would make you happy, and you are able to make other people happy. And for many of you, there's likely to be a very happy family, happy love life, all of those sort of things. That's part of the blueprint. I think you're meant to find, a divine connection or a soulmate or a very deep, happy love relationship. That's going to be part of this. And maybe to have children that take on the lineage. So you have the sense of lineage that you also get with sort of the Emperor or Zeus. So there's definitely that sort of energy around you. But there's some things that you haven't felt have worked as well as you would like. And they're more sort of material and creative than anything, but you had a bit of a kind of an emotional attachment to these things. So you're going through a process of working out what you would keep from that and what you would move on from so that you can move to this mastery. For some of you, there may literally be a decision at the moment about, you could step up into a position of power, but is that going to take you too much away from your family? So there may be some sort of decisions about how you could balance that, how you could bring that into being. I'm also getting that for some, this energy of the Two of Pentacles reversed and the Three of Wands reversed might be some of your shamanic help that you're helping other people with, which is helping them get to the depths and let go of things that are material or health-wise or energetically not working for them. So it's also picking that energy up if you are working in some form of healing or therapeutics for people. So let's have a look at what the narrative for this life is that your 5D self thinks would be good for you to pursue to best get the balance of what development your 5D self is looking for through you in the 3D. Sometimes I have to look at these a bit because it's a new deck for me and the imagery isn't instantly obvious sometimes, if you're wondering why I stopped. Okay, so your 3D self definitely wants to, or your 5D self wants you to connect with the alchemist, with the spiritual beliefs and so forth. That's definitely going to be an important part of you, as I say, being this servant leader rather than someone who's just about the Mars energy. There is a balance your own internal self is trying to find, your 5D self, is between the wish to act and move and be supreme and the wish to be dedicated and fertile and caring. So your 5D self does want you to focus on your spiritual beliefs in this life to make sure that you bring that balance to things. Otherwise, it could get a bit unbalanced with the Chariot reversed. And it could get in the way of you maximizing what should be a destined outcome for you. There's something in what you're meant to do, which is to fix up unhappier groups of people, to bring some stability and harmony and balance into areas where there's conflict, and to bring the heart back to things in some way. So this is the Vesica Pisces sort of energy around it. It is a healing thing, but it's healing with other people. So other people are very important to this. The teams that you work with, the clients you may have, whatever that may be. And your narrative is meant to be bringing people back to their heart in some way. But you've got to remain connected to your inner alchemist. Okay, so let's see how other people impact on you in the 3D given this, because I think other people are important, and I suspect for you this is going to be more than one person than we pick up energy about. Okay. Yeah, you're dealing with people who are going through major transformative change. This is why the shaman energy is coming in. This is why we've got the alchemist to bring in the sense of balance. This is why we can flourish. Alchemy always hits a tower moment. It always does. It is effectively in the alchemical process called the negredo, where everything is burnt down and what is pure comes out of that. So there's something in your life, in this life, in what you do, whether it's, literally in therapeutics or something, or whether it's, as a manager, as a creator, whatever it might be, where you are helping major change, major emotional breakthroughs from people who are disconnected in some way, who are not flourishing in some way. And there's a very material thing. I think many of you may coach or mentor people or teach people in some way. And it will have very strong sort of like spiritual energy beneath it, but it may not be obvious that that is the case. It seems to be more emotionally and creatively focused, and maybe, as I say, in the material. So it could be, you help teams if you're in an organization and you're a leader in an organization, you may be the sort of person who's brought in to diagnose what's going wrong in the organization, turn the culture around, get rid of what isn't working if necessary, clear it all out so that it can move forward with more confidence. For instance, if you are in some form of therapeutics, then you're dealing with people's sort of egos and their emotions in some way to get them to break through so that they can start to be masters of their own material world and shift out of emotional blockages. So it just depends what it is, but there's definitely something healing and something strategic about you and a leadership thing. And the people that are going to be around you are a bit emotionally and creatively stuck and are going through major change. So let's get a little bit more of a sense of them, because I think here we're looking more at people that you're going to help rather than people that you're competing with or competing with you or anything like that. I think this is more what your mission is. So we're going to start firstly with some more cards from the Rainbow Oracle. I'm going to shuffle and then I'm going to deal out till I get a couple of archetype energies, just to get a sense of the sort of archetypes we're dealing with. The Apprentice, that's interesting. That came out in another one. Actually, this probably is an archetype as well. So Lovers. Okay, many of you, this is going to be around emotional stuff, therapeutics, psychology, that kind of thing. And we'll also use another deck which looks at community sort of energies and so forth, or how I see it, it looks at community sort of energies. Community and spiritual energies. Union, yeah, okay, all right. Then we're also going to have a look, and then I'll talk about, I'll talk about this first and then we'll talk about the 3D. So in the 5D, you are going to be teaching people, you are going to be helping them, you are going to be coaching them, you are going to be healing them. And, they may want to learn. So some of the people that you're dealing with may be team members and so forth that you manage, and you're actually building up from when they're sort of starting to understand something to when they are also fully in balance with themselves. Because some of this is about, as I said, divine union. It could be a love relationship, that is part of how you play some of this energy out. But equally, it could be that it is bringing yourself in balance, and therefore you bring other people in balance between their divine, feminine and masculine, teaching them around that. But union is important. For some of you, I think you are going to help people around their relationships, like literally working in therapeutics or healing or something like that, spiritual development, whatever it might be, teaching around that. There's a lot here that feels like psychotherapy, that feels like sort of relationship counseling, that feels like coaching and mentoring. But whatever it is, these people who are around you are looking to you to help them understand how to come more in union with themselves and also with those that they love, and to deal with major changes and blockages, particularly sort of ego blockages and emotional blockages. So let's get a few 3D aspects about them so that you might sort of identify some of them. Sharp, Leo, water, yeah, very emotional sort of side of things. Earth, but yes, looking for earthing energy. And Navy, okay. So These people are smart. You're dealing with smart people. They're drawn to you because they can see what you have to offer, and they understand that. They also very much want to be seen in the world. This is why these sort of ego and creative energies or whatever, if they're blocked, that's an issue. You could be someone who was an amazing teacher of drama, for instance, that helped actors come into balance with their own internal balances and how they wanted to present themselves and how they wanted to connect to an audience. There's something maybe performative about these people, but they're strong as well, and you actually help them flourish with their intelligence and their strength and their emotional connection. They're also likely to be very pragmatic. They want outcomes. This is why the Page of Pentacles is there. They're looking for processes, healthy practices, things that will work, will make money, will establish them in some way. And they do follow authority, and they see you as an authority. Some of them may work. You may be a sort of leader or a manager in some sort of military sort of organisation, with Navy coming up there for some of you that might relate. But you're bringing a balance in of all this sort of Mars energy and so forth with the union of what really makes for a healthy and good environment, for instance. So there could be that. But I think by and large, they'll be very devoted to what you do. They follow authority and they see you as having authority. Let's see what else we get. Sense of humour. Green thumb. Okay, so environmentally focused. Some of them really like, what the world is doing. 30s. Okay, that makes sense. Spiritual. That also makes sense. And skillful. Yeah. So why I said 30s makes sense is that the 30s, they may literally be that age, but what I think really about the 30s is when people are really starting to flourish. They're really starting to be who they are. So they are drawn to you because you become an example and someone who helps them to flourish and become who they are and establish themselves. There's growth around them with the green thumb. They're likely to be fun to be around. I think you'll like most of the people that you're working with, dealing with and helping and so forth. And they will respond to the spiritual approach. So if you set up a spiritual business to do this, they're likely to very much gravitate to it. They're also very skillful in what they do. So these are people who, with the right sort of balance and the right sort of healing or the right sort of advice or the right sort of coaching, will flourish. So it's like your 5D energy is about flourishing for yourself, but it also innately makes other people flourish as well. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the skills that you have both on a 3D level and a 5D level to help with this. So I'm going to start firstly with things around love, lifestyle and career, and then also an archetype on a 3D level. What I'm asking Spirit for here is an energy for each that is going to be a strength for you. So if it looks negative, it's that you can deal with that negative energy very well. So it's always going to be a strength. We're looking specifically for the strengths that your 5D self wants you to be aware of to use in the 3D. So around relationship, attitude. Okay, you understand the attitudes. You can go to the depths with the shaman. You know what is really going on. People cannot pull the wool over your eyes. Very, very clear, very, very spiritually attuned and so forth. You can cut through attitude like cutting, a knife cutting through butter, basically. Around lifestyle, stagnant. You can break anyone out of a stagnant environment, and if you are feeling that way, you can break yourself out as well. I think there is a little bit with what we saw that you might be sort of thinking that at the moment. You know that you're a bit stuck. You're meant to sort of move into your sort of Emperor Zeus sort of energy, so you can break yourself out of it, and as you do it, you actually become a symbol of how to do it to others. In career. Also, I'm getting you breakthrough because this is lifestyle patterns that people might have that are unhealthy or stagnant. You can really, really easily see that. Career, we've got perseverance. Okay, so you are able to see things through. You're not someone who walks away when it gets tough, like when they say, the tough going gets tough, the tough get going. That's you. And let's see what archetype on a 3D level this represents for you and the strength that you have. The priest, okay, this is picking up the alchemist. People do respect you. You have a lot of knowledge. You really have this almost like priestly or sort of like higher order understanding of things. People see you as very spiritual. You'll very much draw spiritual people to you. If you wanted to start some form of spiritual group, you would definitely be able to do it. Okay, and talking of the spiritual, let's look at the 5D strengths that you have. Knowledge, that's interesting, that came up for another one. Mysticism, oh yeah, here we go, the shaman and the alchemist, absolutely. And elemental magic, wow, yeah. That's actually a good combination of energies for somebody who is a shaman and an alchemist, because the alchemist understands the elements, understands magic on that level. Mysticism kind of fits both. The alchemist is going towards Keta, the divine. The shaman can actually get into Malkuth and even into what is effectively the reverse Kabbalah, the sort of shadow Kabbalah as well, and to be able to deal with that. And you have the knowledge to do it. You've brought in a lot of knowledge around shamanism, mysticism, alchemy, all of those sorts of things. Let's have a look at another deck. Pendulum reader, so you may be very good with divination practices. Aura reader, so yeah, you can read other people like a book. And this colour energy, actually, if any of you are into, sort of like oracle decks, I'd very much recommend this one for you, because I think you're very colour oriented. And Life Path 5, the free spirit ruling planet Mercury, you're meant to sort of communicate this with people, very strong mental sort of energy, communication energy and so forth, to bring this knowledge through. You can do it in an accessible way. Like, I think most people wouldn't have any idea what the sort of heft of the kind of spiritual stuff you're bringing to the table, because I think you make it simple for people. Yeah, people sort of like can understand it. But very direct, very strong communication skill in this way. Okay, so to bring it all together in terms of what can happen now in the 3D from your 5D self, we'll have a look at your astrological blueprint that your 5D self wants you to think about, and then we'll use some Astro Chakra cards to close out the reading. Okay, new moon, Leo. So there's something similar between you and the people who are drawn to you. You're meant to be on a bit of a stage as well as them. 12th house, there's all the psychic stuff. And first house, that's meant to be seen. Okay. So this is pretty clear. This is saying that to really help other people flourish, you have to show it yourself. You've been a little bit self-effacing with the Virgo, I think. I think it's time. Your 5D self wants you to actually come out and show what you have. That this is your psychic ability, spiritual ability and so forth is part of how you're meant to be seen in the world. And you are meant to be seen. There's something dramatic and there's a flair to it. So your 5D self is asking you to plant the seeds now of what you desire. What would that look like? Who would you want to be in the world? Because whatever you want to be on that level, you can do it. You can flourish, and you can, in so doing, draw other people in to flourish. Okay, so to finish off, let's just get some Astro Chakra cards. Power, yeah. It's power supremacy. Is this about your personal power in the world? Intuition, which comes as much as anything from your very high spiritual gifts. And power again. Okay, all right. So we've got 2 solar plexus chakra. Who you are in the world, very important. We have Mercury, again, that sort of sense of the kind of ruling planet Mercury here with the Life Path 5. And we have the sun. So that's like having the sun and Mercury conjunct. Your life purpose is connected to what you can communicate in this way and being seen to do it. And you have the focus to be able to do it. You have the knowledge to be able to do it. Coming through the 3rd eye chakra, which is telepathic and connect with others, we have Saturn. That brings definition. Saturn is knowledge also. Saturn is the frameworks and the structure of things. Saturn can allow you to go to the depths, can allow you to be the alchemist and do all of those things. It puts the framework in place. Then the communication and the life path brings in the flourishing. So there's a lot of structure to what you can do. Like if you were in the therapeutics, you would have a very structured way of doing it. You would have your own way of bringing in the spiritual and so forth, but there is a structure, there's a process to it. This is part of what you're meant to bring in. So I hope that this resonates for you, Pile 2. I hope it was enjoyable as well. And if so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So these are the other 2 cards that were under the Spiritual Warrior that brought you to this reading, if that was what brought you here. We've also got some astrology, some interdimensional and other sort of spiritual energy, Fae and Greek mythology. It's meant to give me a bit of a sense about who your 5D self is. So it's not surprising at all to me to see something like the Alpha Draconians come up when you chose Spiritual Warrior, or if you were drawn to Spiritual Warrior, because that is a big part of who you are. You are definitely somebody who will stand up and break through with Uranus against tyranny. The Alpha Draconians are one of the most sort of corrupt and tyrannical types of intergalactic or interdimensional beings in the sort of pantheon. And so there is definitely a breakthrough that you bring to that. There is a side of you that is in a spiritual battle, a spiritual war, very definitively, and knowing that. And they know that they are coming from the heart, whereas the Alpha Draconians, in a sense, they always, to me, represent like the reptile brain, so that the fear element, whereas the heart element is much stronger. And it's interesting that we have heart choices as part of your rainbow council sort of energy. So you make your choices from your heart and from truth. So that's where you come from. And you have a high degree of empathy with others. You really can read a room, you can read situations. Now, there's always a risk for people who are highly empathic to be in the spiritual warrior space, because you will also draw in some of that energy. So it's very important to keep things in balance. And I think what is good is that your mind, you have a strong heart, but your mind is also strong with library. It's very balanced. You know what is fair. You have a very, very strong sense of justice. And in the material world, this will very much show itself as social justice and those kinds of things. You would want things to be fair, and you understand the implications and so forth. You're also able to create new systems, new ways of doing things with the Green Witch, which is all about the new, the fresh, spring, bringing in the new and new growth. And with the creator energy, you don't just fight a battle, you actually provide a solution or the next step. So you're not just about sort of the change, you're also about what follows the change, what is new, what comes in that is more empathic and more connected to the heart, and very, very psychically attuned with Iris, with messages. You would very much connect into your 5D self, and I would say to your spirit team, getting messages about what is the new. I think that's what you're learning about, because you're more than able to pick up the environment on your own. You're more than able to stay in your heart center and fight with that which is more 3D draconic, basically. And you're more than capable of taking the change that is necessary and bring the balance in. But I think around the new, this is where you get the inspiration from your spiritual team and from your 5D self. So let's have a look and see with tarot a little bit more about the sort of personality and energy around your 5D self at the moment and how that's manifesting for you in the 3D. Okay, so firstly, you're very, very learned about whatever it is, whatever way that this is working through. You've got the higher learning. You do have a respect for authority when that authority is appropriate and when it comes from the heart. So you're not sort of somebody who comes in and says, I'm going to battle anybody in authority, and then you just do it indiscriminately. Your 5D self has a very strong sense of balance and understands through empathy when you're dealing with good energy on a kind of power basis, as opposed to the more fear-based energy that needs to be overthrown. So you would rather have dialogue and talk about sort of mutual respect between different belief systems and be in the heart. But if that doesn't work out, with the 5 of Cups, you're able to move past that and work out, well, what are the ego issues to come out with a result that can be better? And it's sort of, and to take things through that stage of letting go of what isn't working and what is sort of egoic. A lot of this is egoic. I think that you battle in one form or another with ego issues in a workplace, creatively, in family, whatever it might be. And you're using that spiritual warrior thing, but that balance of empathy and fairness to make sure that you're only having the battles when they're necessary. When they aren't, you can work very well with authority. You don't have a problem with authority. You don't have a problem with traditions. You don't have a problem with any of that, as long as it is of the heart and that it cares about people and brings things into balance. And as long as it allows for the new to come through, you're fine. But if it sort of blocks that in some way, then you want to move through the change that's necessary to let things come into being. So let's see what the narrative of this life is for you according to your 5D self. Okay. So you're definitely here for the hard yards. You're here for the battle when it's necessary. You will take things on. You will see things through. And it's not necessarily going to be the easiest life on that level. And you do need to be very much out front and centre. You can't sort of withdraw as much as partly the empath might want to do. You really are going to be in the middle of the battle. But you are here to bring hope where hope is lost. And you are here to break through structures that are stuck and are too material. So you take this on. It's very much is the spiritual warrior. It very much is that essence of I will go for a higher cause than what. And I don't think you could do anything other than this, to be honest, because when you have the heart of a spiritual warrior and you're an empath, there's no way that you could be in stuck, very material, very egoistic sort of environments without wanting to break through the sort of negative energy of that. You would just have to. Your 5D self is such that you would just have to. So your narrative is about fighting the battles and taking it on and trying to bring things through to something better. So let's see how this impacts on dealing with other people. How are other people in relation to you given this? Okay. So I think there's a dual message here. I think firstly it's saying there's at least one really strong, great relationship around you, a colleague, a comrade in arms, a lover. It could be anything, but it's not really necessarily about gender that has come up as the Queen of Cups, but this is a very good connection for you and someone I think who gives you emotional sustenance in the battle. So I think it's definitely saying there's someone like that. But I think that most people that you're dealing with are either the sort of people who are too judgmental and who bring negative justice and negative stuff on people, so they're the people that you're battling with, or they are people who have been subject to unfair judgment, unfair fortune, and so forth. So it just depends. Like this could be the good or the bad energy around it, but you are going to be dealing with both because you are the spiritual warrior, you are the battler. So what we're going to try and do is get a bit of a sense of the 5D energy around the key people around you. And that might help to give me a sense about whether we're talking maybe then about this person or whether we're talking about either the people you're battling with or the people that you're helping. When we look at what the energy is, we're just asking in this part of it for spirit and for your 5D self to give us a bit more information on the 5D energy of the key people in your life, in this life path. And then also at a 3D level, what you might be sort of characteristics that you could recognise. So what I'm going to do firstly with the Rainbow Oracle is I'm going to shuffle as I'm doing now, and then I'm going to deal out till I get 2 archetypes. That will help tell us which we're talking about. Like what does your 5D self want to look at? But the Eternal Queen, that came up for one of the others. And Digital Warrior, okay. All right, I think this is your person who's helping you. So that's interesting. 5D world wants to talk, 5D level anyway, your 5D spirit wants to talk about that. So there's an important warrior in arms for you. And we'll also get a card from a deck that sort of picks up community and sort of spirituality and so forth. The Gospel. Okay, and there's something about the Hierophant connecting to that too. So we'll get to that. So in terms of the archetypes, I think this is the Queen of Cups. I think this is working very positively in this case. It came up in another reading, but I think in that case it was actually connected to a more negative energy. So I think it just sort of depends. This I think is a genuine Eternal Queen. So it could be that it's feminine. It doesn't have to be, but it's certainly a sense of somebody who's very well developed, and they're very well developed with Digital Warrior in the way of being able to deal with the digital world, the modern world, and all that sort of thing. Someone who's very good at communication, someone who's very good at technology, who may be able to help uncover things with you. Very well schooled, I think, and has a very strong sort of spiritual connection with the gospel here. There also may be another person around you that is very much around the traditions. And it could be that part of this warrior thing is against those who purport to be the justice system, purport to be those who can judge, purport to be those who understand the wheel but don't. So we may be getting a little bit of both. I think this energy is really about the Queen of Cups, about an ally. But the gospel could either work for or against you around other people. It's sort of if the gospel is somebody who follows the right path, then that connects with this energy. But if it's sort of someone who is using that to control others, it could be picking up a different energy. So let's see what we get when we look at 3D characteristics, because that might help you identify whether we're talking all just about the Queen of Cups here, or whether we're talking about both your ally and then also the kind of reason that you're having to do a battle, the people who have taken the power but maybe illegitimately. So let's see firstly from one deck here some of the characteristics. Europe, so there could be a connection to Europe in some form. Ox, so they could be born in the year of the ox, or they could have the sort of characteristics like being diligent, being hardworking and reliable, patient, gentle, materialistic, a bit stubborn. So there could be that kind of energy. It could even be when you're sort of battling that sometimes you're dealing with people who are very, a bit stubborn, a bit hard to sort of shift through. Got spots, routine, freckles, birthmark, okay. Gemini, Leo. Okay. So people around you may be sort of highly sort of Gemini or Leo, so very witty, charming, very much sort of like in your face in a way, opinionated, strong, all of that kind of thing. I feel like this might be the energy around the person who's your supporter. They're very smart, very sharp, very technologically adept, and also able to really stand out in a crowd in some way. So there's something like that, I think. But I think that this might be picking up both people you help and also maybe people that you're battling with. Maybe there's something to do with Europe, the connections and so forth with where some of your battles are. As I say, I think this is probably more energy around people that you help, people that are diligent and hardworking, but maybe a bit stubborn and don't necessarily see the game that you see and understand what's going on. And then spots and so forth, routine, consistency. I actually get when I see this, a leopard can't change its spots. I think it's picking up those that are very rigid, and there's something rigid about the energy that you're dealing with. That's why we had Uranus as that breakthrough energy. Okay, so let's have a look at what are some of your skills in the 3D and the 5D. So what I'm starting with in the 3D is to look at relationship, lifestyle, career, and another archetype energy. And in this, I'm expressly and intentionally asking Spirit to show me something that is a strength. So if it appears to be a negative card, it is something that you are able to overcome in yourself or others. And if it's positive, obviously it's a strength anyway. So firstly, around relationships. Letting go. Okay, you can let go when necessary. You know when to battle and when to let go. You know when a battle is done. You're not going to sort of brood over things. You move on. You use that Uranian energy and so forth. So you're able to stay in relationships that are positive, but you're able to let go when necessary. Around lifestyle, criticism. So you can take criticism, you actually don't care. If somebody doesn't approve of what you're doing or doesn't understand what you're doing, it really doesn't faze you at all. You're also able to give positive criticism, I think, and look at systems and so forth that need to be changed and do it in a very positive and constructive way. With career, success, you're going to be successful. So with whatever you're doing with this, you're going to be successful. And if you take this change energy and this spiritual warriorship into a job, then that will be very successful for you. And then let's look at a 3D level archetype for you. The child. Okay. So I think because this is a positive thing, this is the new. This is what we saw at the beginning, that after you've done the battle, there is the new. I think that you can rebirth yourself and rebirth others into the new. So I feel it's all about, and there's a kind of an innocence to it, but an innocence, it's nevertheless, you know what you're doing. So you're too advanced really to be a child at a kind of 5D level, but you can bring in the new and you can bring back the innocence. After the storm, you can bring in the sort of beautiful valley full of flowers sort of thing. Okay, let's have a look at some spiritual gifts that work for you on the 5D level. Healing. So this is this energy. Once you've gone through the battle, you can help to heal and bring in the new. Nature, yeah, bring in the new, the spring, the nature, the flowers. There's something about that with you. And taboo, you can go into what people are afraid to go into, and you will look into it. You will look deeply into it and with an open heart, but you're not going to take any prisoners when it comes to inappropriate behaviour. You're going to call it out. Okay, and looking at another deck that's around spiritual gifts for the 5D. Facebook platform. Yeah, you're meant to be seen. You're meant to bring this out. There's a message that you're meant to bring out. So whenever I get these sort of cards in this deck, I just think it means that you have a message you're meant to bring out. 7, Life Path 7, the dreamer, ruling planet Neptune. Yeah, I have a dream. You know, like it's like you can kind of send that message out. There's a lot that you can do to affect the change that you need without even going into battle, but with, you know, your kind of empathy and your communication skills. And youth director, spiritual support, educate. So you may actually, again with a child here, you may actually mentor and coach a lot of young people, help them come into their power, help them come into understanding spirituality and the truth of their heart and all that kind of thing as well. Okay, so to close out, we're going to look at your astrological blueprint for this life with what your 5D self wants for you, and then some astro chakra cards just to synthesize it. So conjunction, we'll have a look at the planets. 8th house, that's sort of very much the deep, you know, going into the deep and the sort of empathy and the sort of psychic ability. Sagittarius, freeing people, the Uranian sort of energy. And the 9th house, there's something with the Hierophant and the Gospel. You may be sort of like starting a different way of looking at things spiritually, or a different form of education for people or something like that. You're also likely to put a lot of effort into education and making sure that you have the right knowledge behind what you do. But there's a freedom aspect there. It's very philosophical. It's very spiritual. I was going to do the conjunction. Let's see what the conjunction energy is. So I'll just deal out until I get planets. Neptune. So yeah, that's the psychic ability again. Neptune and Uranus. So we've got Uranus again. So this is a spiritual change. You're less likely, I think, even though I do think there's stuff about social justice and everything around you, you're less likely to really be doing it directly in the halls of power and politics. You're more likely to be doing it on a spiritual level, taking people through transformative change in some way spiritually. Okay, and let's have a look at the Astro Chakra cards to bring it all together. So yes, who you are in the world, your solar plexus chakra, who you are in the world, your solar plexus chakra, and your heart. And we know your heart's very much connected up here. And in fact, your heart has Neptune there, so it's inspiration to take people through change in a heartfelt, empathic sort of way, and to forgive that which needs to be forgiven. So you're not, as I say, you're not necessarily going to be sort of fighting political power. You could be with Alpha Draconian, but I actually think it's more likely that sort of ego battles and stuff with people and so forth, and giving a better spiritual thing and a more heart-centered thing. And again, we have Neptune in your solar plexus chakra with Pluto, so the transformative energy of your own personal power and your inspiration strengthens you, brings respect to you, and so forth. So you walk your talk. You are the empath. You are the heart-centered person. You are the spiritual warrior. You can't help yourself. You have to actually help and deal with things when you think they're unjust and so forth. That is part of what your inspirational power is. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 3, and I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 4, to your reading. So these are the other two cards that came from the Rainbow Oracle, which are both kind of spiritual energies around your 5D self. Then we have some astrology energy here. We have some other spiritual energy, Fae energy, and mythology energy, just so that I can get a kind of overview of your 5D self and 5D personality and energies and so forth. So your primary archetype is the shapeshifter. This means that you can live in the world and change the world and change things as you want to change them. You can change your own appearance. You can change your approach. You can be many things and so forth. So you're not imprisoned in any way. You're very free. Your 5D self is happy to be many things and to flow as necessary. Very much connected to the heart and to the water element. So you're very cups oriented, maybe strong water sign potentially. But you create your world, you shapeshift your world and yourself in alignment with your heart. And there is something about this life that is meant to bring in a real financial flow. I mean, with water and then financial flow, you're meant to be abundant. You're meant to, this ability you have to fit in with your environment or to shift your environment as you see fit, to connect with your heart and so forth, is meant to make you be well off in whatever form that is, and to be able to sort of have the energy of money and financial flow coming to you. I think for many of you, it might be in healing others in some way or bringing a healing energy to things. So I mean, like, I'm getting this. Some of you could be sort of brilliant around finances. You might be sort of someone who understands sort of behavioral economics, for instance, and you can see how people's heart and what they want to heal and grow within themselves is partly what either blocks or brings financial flow to them. So there's sort of empathy you have around that. So it could be that you work in something around finances, but if not, there's something around your empathy and your capacity to heal others, possibly as a way of healing yourself, though I think you're largely healed. With the shapeshifter here, I don't think that I think you're quite comfortable in who you are and being able to show different aspects of yourself. You have like that, you're not imprisoned by worrying about whether, or your 5D self isn't anyway, about worrying about, who you are in the world. You're quite comfortable to be what you need to be to meet your heart's desires and so forth. There's a lot of wisdom that you have and a lot of connection to soul kin. So I think in this life you will connect with your soul tribe a lot. If you haven't already, I think you will. And there's something about your great loyalty to that with Penelope. So Penelope was Odysseus's wife, so he was off, being the hero all over the shop, and she had to sit at home and keep the home fires burning, but she was always there and she was always loyal, and that was a really strong connection. For some of you, there may be a very strong soul connection, a kind of divine union or something like that occurs in this life. As part of what you're bringing in with your heart and so forth. But I think, again, you're likely maybe to heal that person if it's something like that, because you're very secure in who you are. You have a lot of wisdom to share, and you can do it in very light, clever way with Gemini. And Gemini is also in some ways the shapeshifter astrology sign. It can wear masks, it can be different things. Not to be inauthentic, you're not inauthentic, but to understand its environment and to be clever and quick enough to deal with that and shift in the environment. So there's a kind of a genius about you, I have to say, powerful. There's a kind of a sense of, unlocking the matrix in some way and knowing how to make things flow and being just very comfortable in your own skin and whatever it is. But I think you're going to heal some other people around you and share your wisdom with others who are around you that are connected on a soul level. So let's see with tarot a little bit more about your sort of like 5D personality and approach and so forth, and what your 5D self wants to say to you. Okay. Your 5D self is sort of championing at the bit for you to really come out and show how much you shine, to be honest. It looks to me like your 5D self feels like you're not sort of coming out from behind the scenes to show all your colours, and that you should have that confidence. Your 5D self knows that you can fit in anywhere and go with the flow anywhere and connect with your heart anywhere. But it looks as though they're saying at the moment you've kind of like kept that to yourself. You haven't necessarily shown it. So for some of you, you may have felt you hadn't found your soul tribe yet, or you may have felt very different with this sort of energy, where can you fit in? And your 5D self is saying, hey, I can fit in anywhere. You can fit in anywhere. Don't suppress your light. Don't suppress your colours. Don't suppress what is unique around you. You need to come out of you may be very highly spiritual, but it's time to sort of come out and be with people in the world and to make that decision, because you're meant, as I say, to be seen, to be known, to make money, to heal others, to connect to your people. But for some reason, you've kind of doubted that and you've sort of hidden yourself away. So your 5D self says, come out swinging, come out with all the colours blazing. It's a real sense of pride and energy that your 5D self wants you to sort of own and come out with. So let's sort of see what the narrative is, therefore, that your 5D self wants you to have as a 3D self at the moment and in your life generally. Okay. So your 5D self is saying be your own creation with the Ace of Wands. Back yourself on the sense that you can be highly creative and bring in abundance and so forth. Again, your 5D self is kind of scolding you a bit, 5-4, not in a bad way, but just to kind of like really make you realize what you have, because again, the Empress is a little bit reversed. And it could be that for some of you, there were sort of issues around your family, parental sort of impacts and whatever that made you feel like you were different or you couldn't fit in or whatever. If that's the case, your 5D self says you are more than capable now of being who you are in the world, and do not worry about that. Do not let that imprint stop you making the decisions that you want to make. And if you want to create something, you can, but it looks like at the moment your 5D self's kind of interested in you creating financial abundance rather than necessarily, say, being a parent or something like that. If you are a parent, they're saying that's fine, that's beautiful, but also there's money to be made. Like, look at your skills and your abilities, look at what you could create, and it's yours, it's not other people's. You are so unique, you are so sort of mercurial and different and colourful that you aren't meant to be following other people's visions. You're meant to be following your own, and there's an enormous amount of creative energy for you to bring in and bring this sort of flow of abundance. And you should be dedicated to it. You can be dedicated to it because it will reap rewards for you. So let's see how this impacts with other people, because all that creative energy, some of what might have created you being worried about it, whether it was sort of family or others, is that people who didn't understand you, for instance, or people who thought you were too different, or people who required you to look a certain way and act a certain way, which you're able to do if you have to, but it's not necessarily who you are. So we always interact with others. We're not on our own, no matter how strong and confident our 5D self is. We have to interact with others. So let's see what your 5D self wants to point out around other people at the moment in your 3D world. Okay. Yeah. So there's definitely been something between the Empress reversed, which suggests, as I say, parental figure or some sort of nurturing figure that was maybe very judgmental and wanted you to be a particular way. And then we have Justice reversed, which suggests that some people around you are not allowing you to be who you are and not judging you in an appropriate way. And the Devil card suggests, like big organizations, big power and so forth, having an impact on what your material outcomes are. There is something in terms of the emotional patterning about that to move away from. So I think that this is going to be talking about people who are not your soul family, the people who maybe would take you down the wrong paths or whatever, or not let you be who you are. And I think that your 5D self wants to point that out, because you are meant to be really successful and really creative and all those sort of things. So these are the people, in a sense, to move away from that we're going to be talking about. So given that's what your 5D self wants to talk about, we're going to firstly look at the 5D energy around these people, these types of people. So it could be a particular person or types of people around you. And so what I'm going to firstly do is use the Rainbow Oracle again, and I'm going to shuffle, and then I'm going to deal out until I get 2 archetypes, just to get a sense of the 5D archetypal energy around those that are problematic for you. Wow, this card comes up in nearly all of them. So, and sometimes as a positive and sometimes in this case as a negative. So there might be a few of you that are going to more than one reading. And that one came up as well. That's interesting. I've shuffled these a number of times. So this must be meant to, this is a particular type of personality that I think that many of the people who are coming to these readings have to deal with, who it's a combination of power in the world in this case, but not really having the skill and the knowledge to wield that properly. And this is why you've got the injustice sort of issue and so forth. So each of the times these cards have come up, either together or separately, they have either been positive or negative, and they've connected to what it was we're talking about. But it's just interesting. I think some of you might have come to a couple where both of these cards came up as well. Okay, so let's also have a look at a card from a deck that is all about community and spirituality and sort of spiritual practice and so forth. It's sort of, I use it to pick up sort of like more group type of energy around something, and in this case at the 5D level. The feminine. Okay, so some of this energy where there are 5D people who are wanting to control, I think, and wanting you to be a particular way, may think either, I mean, it depends what your sort of gender identification is, but if we talk about the feminine, they may have a view about what it is to be feminine, and you have to fit that or it's not good enough is almost the feeling around it. And this eternal queen, there is a way to be a feminine person or whatever, but it's a very immature understanding about all of that. So you have a much more mature understanding about the fact that we are all everything in a way, and we can shape shift and be what we need to be in a situation as long as we're true to our heart. So there's something here, I think, about either literally gender identification, presentation, the feminine side of things, and this is why maybe the Empress is reversed. It's kind of like, is there a pressure on you to be a particular type of nurturer, for instance, because you do have a healing ability, but you are meant to make money and you are meant to do something like a business with this. It's not just looking after everybody. So I think that there may be people around you who have a particular idea about what it is to be feminine, be receptive, be caring, be nurturing. And if you don't fit that, they have a problem with it. They're very controlling, very patriarchal, I would say, sort of feeling about it. But very young. They're not anywhere near as advanced as you. And take heart from that, because it means that even if they are in positions of power at the moment, you can walk away from this because you are meant to bring in something for yourself. Let's get a little bit of other identification information on these sort of people in your life on a 3D level. Stripes, Taurus, brown, silver, Aries. Okay. So I think Aries and Taurus here are picking up the sort of not so positive aspects. I mean, all signs have not so positive aspects. So I'm thinking here it's the sort of being very stubborn, and this is what it is to live a good life, and this is how you should be. And Aries, very competitive, very controlling sort of energy and so forth. So these people compete as much as anything else, because underneath they do know that they're not as advanced as people like you, but they're never going to admit that if they can avoid it. And they have very fixed ideas about what it is to be in the world and what it is to be successful in the world. They're probably extremely well presented. They know how to look and how to dress, and all of that stuff matters a lot to them. These people are very, as I say, it's young. It's a kind of a view of your identity is what clothes you wear and how you do your hair, and all of which can contribute to it, but that's about all they think about. It's those sorts of things. They want attention on them all the time. There could be a little bit of narcissism around them, but they're also, you need to be cautious of them. They can come across as warm and natural and all of those sorts of things and friendly, but it's on their terms very much. And it's all about, do you fit the right cutout? And they put a lot of pressure on you to do that. Okay, let's get a few more 3D aspects about them. And I think your 5D self is just saying to you, these are not they may present themselves as the keepers of the keys to the kingdom, but you are actually able to create your own kingdom. So what do we also get about them? Green thumb. So they might sort of like nature and so forth. Introvert. So it's interesting because they feel like they're a bit flashy, but maybe underneath they're a bit introverted. They don't feel able to be the full sort of out there thing that they want to be. Mysterious. So then, they do the mystery. So this is maybe the way they present themselves. Very, very stylish and all that kind of thing. A bit mysterious. It's sort of hiding insecurities that they have. Ambitious. Yeah, really big time ambitious. Body art, okay, they may have body art or again, it's all about sort of fashion and how they present themselves or whatever. But for you, that's part of being true to who you are and being able to sort of move between environments and shapeshift and be beautiful in any kind of context. For them, there's a very fixed idea about what this all should look like. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the skills that you can do to deal with this and get the best outcome for your 5D self. So we're starting first with some 3D skills. So we're going to look at love, lifestyle, career, and then also a kind of 3D archetype. And what I'm doing with these is the intention in it is that if a negative card comes up, it's still a strength. It's something that you are able to overcome. And if a positive one, obviously it's a strength, you know, prima facie. So let's see what we get for love. Connections. So yeah, you can make the right connections because you are able to be, you're not judgmental. These people are really freaking judgmental, I've got to say. You're not. So you can move between things and you'll find your true soul team and you'll have the reunion with them and you'll have that loyalty to them or whatever. But you're able to mix with anyone really because you're not judgmental, because you understand that we're all everything in a way. So you are much better at relationships. These people aren't actually. They trade on how they appear and a bit of mystery and so forth. But the people who are trying to control you or tell you what to do, it's because they can kind of sense that you're way ahead of them. Okay, let's look at lifestyle. Pattern. Yeah, you can see the patterns in things. You can work out how to fit in with different lifestyles. You can understand what lifestyles bring to the people who follow them too. As I say, you're not judgmental. Career. Reduction. You know when to reduce the emphasis and the energy and the influence on you because you're definitely not about reduction when it comes to finance. You're going to have money coming through. So I think this is like, you know when to reduce connections and to reduce patterns that are around that are not fulfilling that financial flow and connecting to the heart. Okay, and let's get a 3D archetype for you. The challenger. Okay, so you're more than capable of dealing with this. You can take on the challenge. Like seriously, these people aren't in your league. They want to convince you that they are and that you have to be like them, but ultimately you know, and your 5D self knows that's not true, and you're able to take on the challenge when it's necessary, and you can challenge patterns in your life and other people. You can reduce what you need to reduce and move on when you need to move on. Okay, so let's have a look at what your spiritual gifts on a 5D level are that also help you in living out what your 5D self is wanting you to achieve in this life. Activation, elemental magic, and learn. Okay, so you are able to learn. I mean, it's interesting. You're like the chameleon. You can go into environments, you can sort of understand them, you can learn them very fast, you can activate then who you want to be in that, and elementally you are very connected to all the elements. You understand how to make that happen. That's why you can be the shapeshifter, because you understand, you know, if you're in a very Pentacles earth type of environment, you can use that kind of magic and you can shapeshift to that. If you're in a very emotional environment, you can do the same thing there. Okay, and then let's also use another deck for some other spiritual gifts. Ascension Path 4 is senses being realigned. Yeah, you can realign your senses, as I'm saying, to the elements and the environment that you're in. We have Indigo Child born between 1968 and 1978. You could be in that group, or you could be connected to others in that. Or Indigo Children in general is just a psychic ability and psychic connections. And then Chakra Healer, and that's again the sort of elemental magic and the sort of like, you may, and the healing energy that we saw at the beginning. So you may make money out of being able to heal people in a very real sense as well. Okay, so to finish off, we're just going to look at an astrological profile for you that your 5D self wants you to think about, and then some astro chakra cards to synthesize the story. So we have Taurus, Mutable, Moon, and Mars. So there you see, you can be the challenger. You have that energy. You are able to be active when you need to be. You're also able to be stubborn when you need to be. So remember, we saw Taurian energy for some of what is around a problem for you. You're able to be stubborn and put your feet down and stay firm when you need to. You also really enjoy life, you know, and that is an infectious thing for people around you. And you have your own ambition, but it's very calibrated to your heart, and you're able to be flexible. So Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Pisces may be strong in your chart, but this is really about the capacity to transform, to be flexible, tolerant, all that. You are a kind of an icon of tolerance, actually, but I think you're around people who are quite the opposite. Okay, so to finish off, let's just get 3 astro chakra cards for you. We have the root chakra, heart chakra, and the solar plexus chakra. So who you are really matters to your survival, who you are at your core, and that's where you get your inspiration from, but it's also where your reward is coming from. This is why it's saying your capacity to shapeshift, connect to your heart, will bring the financial flow. That's how you get your reward. That's how you are stable in the world, and it will be your ultimate victory over the rest of this. You are going to be very successful and particularly if you connect to your heart and you transform in relation to your heart with Pluto there, and you're grateful for what comes. But I think that you know that. I think you know where that flow is coming from. Your 5D self certainly does. And that is also about transformation. So this capacity to change, it's part of who you are. Like that shape-shifting is in a sense living a Plutonian energy, being able to change whenever you need to. And that is a strength for you. That is part of what's going to bring in material success, healing of others, all of that sort of thing. So you're meant to be very successful, but it's because you are very flexible, very diverse, and you are very non-judgmental. But I do think that you're going to be around people who are quite the opposite. You're more than capable of dealing with them, but just always stay in what your sort of like spiritual and emotional inspiration is, so that you do that transformation always with yourself towards the financial flow and the healing flow and the connection to your soul twin or soul family, as we talked about at the beginning. So I hope that that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.